author, a speaker, and I've built a multi-million-dollar business with my voice. Now, for years, I lived in a very different world to the one that I'm in now. I was a professional singer and a performer. I traveled the world. I stepped onto stages night after night in front of audiences who were sometimes skeptical, distracted, downright hostile sometimes, and I learned something very quickly. It's not the most technically brilliant performer who wins the audience, but it's the one who knows how to create presence, how to use their voice as an instrument of emotional influence, how to make people feel something that changes how they think and what they do. Now, when I moved into the business world, I would meet these brilliant people with decades of experience, stunning credentials, but when they got up to speak, well, whether that was in a meeting, whether it was on a stage or on camera, they flattened. They lacked the ability to show up and share that expertise in a confident, compelling, and impactful way. They were brilliant on the inside, but not in their presence. And yet other, less qualified people became the go-to person in their industry, and simply because they knew how to show up and communicate their message powerfully. Now, the most knowledgeable, technically brilliant person is not always the most influential. The difference isn't just in what you say, but it's how you say it. And for a long time in my own business, I did what many of you have done. I waited for referrals. I waited for introductions. I waited for people to find me, stuck in what I call the hope method of running my business. Now, I was busy, but the turning point was when I stopped quietly hoping that the right clients would discover me, and I started showing up as the key person of influence in my own niche, with a system around me that supported that. And that's the same shift I now help my clients make, from waiting to leading, from being the best kept secret to being the influential voice of their market. You don't need to be a performer, but you do need to be the trusted face and voice of your brand. Now, before we go any further, I want to be very clear about who this session is and is not for. This is for you if you're an established expert, coach, or founder. If you have a proven offer and real clients, you know you offer a transformation, and you're ready to be the face and the voice of your brand. You want authentic authority that fits who you are, and you want a predictable stream of ideal clients. So if this sounds like you, then keep listening. It's not for you if you're just starting out and you're still figuring out what you sell. If you want a get-rich-quick system instead of building a real brand. If you refuse to show up on camera or stage ever, and if you're not willing to get uncomfortable to grow. I want to share a quick story about my client. His name is James. Now, James is brilliant, genuinely one of the smartest people in his field. But when he came to me, there was a gap between his expertise and how he was perceived. He had the best credentials, he's technically brilliant, but his presence wasn't reflecting that. He avoided speaking opportunities, and that limited his chances for growth. And then the second issue is he didn't have a solid message or a pitch. So he could explain what he did in a roundabout way, but not in a clear, authoritative narrative that people could repeat when he wasn't in the room. So we worked on three things. We strengthened his presence so that he walked into rooms like a leader and spoke like a leader. We refined his pitch and his core message so it was clear what problem he solved and what transformation he could offer. And we positioned that message strategically so he wasn't relying on hope for referrals, meetings, and opportunities. And the result, when his presence demonstrated his authority and his message made his value unmistakable, his opportunities multiplied. He was headhunted for a major international leadership role. He moved countries for the opportunity. And he's now recognized as a key person of influence in his space, someone who is invited into conversations and isn't chasing them. His revenue grew, his visibility grew, and even better, his leverage grew. Because once your presence and your message and your positioning align, you stop relying on chance visibility and you start relying on strategic authority. And that is the difference between being intellectual and being influential. So how do we move from, I hope I come across well today, to I know exactly who I'm being, what I'm saying, and how this drives clients into my world? Well, over the years, I have distilled what I do with my best clients into a very simple framework, and I call it the influential voice method. It has 3 pillars. Pillar 1, your personal brand voice and presence. You become the calm, confident, authentic voice and presence that people trust. You learn how to show up with confidence and speak with intention so your message lands. You develop your personal brand voice. And then pillar 2 is your $1 million message. You craft one flagship authority asset. This is a talk, a webinar, or a training that positions you and makes your transformation the obvious choice. And then pillar 3 is the scalable revenue system. You install a simple system around your message. It attracts the right people, it nurtures them, and it converts them into high-quality clients consistently. I'm going to walk you through each pillar today, and then if it resonates, I'll show you how we can build all 3 together inside a 90-day program called the Influential Voice Accelerator. But before I do that, I want to ask you 3 questions, and I want you to be honest with yourself as you answer them. The first one is, have you ever delivered a presentation packed with brilliant information only to watch your audience drift off mentally, checking their phones, or even worse, approving someone else's weaker idea simply because it was presented more compellingly? Question 2. Have you ever looked at someone in your industry with half your experience, yet they've got 10 times your visibility? And this is simply because they have a signature core message that the market is resonating with. And then question 3, have you ever turned down a high visibility opportunity, a stage, a podcast, or a keynote because you didn't see how you could turn that attention into actual clients? Well, if you answered yes to any of these, then what I'm about to share with you could be the hidden catalyst for growing your reputation, your business, and your income. So let's start with pillar number 1, your personal brand voice. Your voice is your brand's first signal of authority, of trust, credibility, likability, believability. Our voices have incredible power, the power to convey a message with clarity, confidence, conviction, the power to connect emotionally. Your vocal profile is just as important, maybe even more important than your visual profile, but it rarely gets the same attention. When you master how you speak, you don't just communicate, you influence, you inspire, you move people to take action, whether that's in the boardroom, on a stage, online, in a video, in a one-on-one conversation. Your voice impacts decisions. Now, here's a hard truth. Your audience decides whether to truly listen to you within the first 5 seconds of your presentation, of your reel, of your YouTube video, or your sales call. 5 seconds. Not after your results, not after your methodology, not after your story. 5 seconds. And once those assumptions are made, it's like trying to swim upstream in a 3-piece suit. Well, it's technically possible, but it's much harder than it needs to be. Some speakers seem to have this natural magnetic presence. They capture the room the moment they enter. the moment they speak. So I want you to think about someone like that, and feel free to drop their name in the comments, in the chat. It could be an actor, it could be a coach, a podcaster, maybe a politician. And then I want you to think of the top people in your industry. They all communicate their message, their passion, their authority clearly and confidently. The most common names that roll off the tongue whenever I ask this question would be Tony Robbins, Barack Obama, Oprah. And okay, I can see that some of you have already mentioned some of these names, but a few names that I thought of across different industries are, Stephen Bartlett, The Diary of a CEO, Morgan Freeman, the actor, Les Brown, a motivational speaker, Russell Brunson, a digital marketer, and Codie Sanchez. She's an investor, a founder, and a mentor. All these people have different styles and different personalities, but the one thing that they have in common is that they are all great at communicating what they do. Not necessarily all great public speakers, but influential in their niche. And in most cases, that ability to communicate well wasn't a gift. It was developed. They didn't wait until they were perfect to show up. They all started messy, and then they improved publicly. Now, Morgan Freeman is a great example. We assume he was born with that deep, rich, resonant authority, but early in his career, his voice was nothing remarkable. But he worked on it. He refined it. He developed intention and control when he spoke. And then Tony Robbins, he started speaking in small, empty rooms. But he studied, he modeled other great speakers, and he even worked with voice coaches to strengthen and to project and protect his voice. Your voice is a high-value brand asset. And like any asset, it needs to match the level of the business that you're building and not quietly undermine it. So to turn your voice into a brand asset, we look at three things. The first one is congruence. Does your voice match the level of the messaging that you're delivering? If you're teaching a high-level strategy, but your voice sounds rushed, so today I'm going to share this framework and it's really powerful, and there's this subtle trust gap, right? If you're speaking about the transformation that you offer, but then your tone drops off and trails off like that. And that's why this really works. Your audience doesn't consciously analyze it, but they feel it. Your energy and your tone communicate your message before your words do. But when these are aligned, people relax. But when they're not, people will hesitate. The second one is identity. Identity is about where your voice places you in the hierarchy of your market. Are you speaking in questions? Here's what I think might work for you. This could maybe help you. Using these upward inflections signals uncertainty. It sounds like you're asking for permission versus, here's what might work for you. I believe this can help you. Instantly a different level of authority. So your fillers and your upward inflections and your rambling, you might think that they just sound casual, but they sound and they signal that I'm not fully certain that I belong here. They are what I call authority leaks. And when those leaks then are plugged and they disappear, you stop sounding like someone who is trying to be credible, and you start sounding like someone who already is. Now, the third one is leverage. Leverage is how we can scale this commercially. A grounded, warm, resonant voice builds trust faster. A calm pace is perceived as more competent. Strategic pauses build authority. If you speak too fast, you sound nervous. If you speak too softly, you sound unsure and weak. If you speak too loudly without any variation, you sound forceful and you don't sound influential. Your voice affects whether people will lean in, whether they believe you, whether they will book that call, whether they will invest. And these might feel like performing skills, but really it's about perception. And perception drives positioning. Positioning drives revenue. Now, obviously, there are controls behind all of this, like breath management, pacing, pausing, and inflection. But like I said, it's not necessarily about becoming a great speaker, but it can be. But it's really about making sure that your voice and your presence represent you, your knowledge, your passion, and what you have to offer. When you speak with intention, knowing how your words will land, you suddenly can control how people react and how they respond. And most people start speaking and they hope that their words come across with clarity. But influential voices do the opposite. Before they open their mouths, they're very clear on three things. The first, how they want their audience to feel. Second, what they want them to understand. And third, what they want them to do. When your intention is clear, your voice, your words, and your body align, and you stop sounding like you're trying to prove yourself, and you start sounding like someone who knows where they're taking the room. Now, I want to share a quick story of a client of mine. His name is Arun. Arun is a tech, or at the time was a tech CEO and an absolute introvert when he first came to me. And he told me, public speaking is not in my DNA. I'll never be good at it. He even considered skipping a major speaking opportunity to speak at an industry conference, one which was critical for authority, investors, and visibility because of his anxiety. Now, we worked toward that event, crafting a clear and confident talk. He had to get uncomfortable to get comfortable at first, and he resisted this, changing his body language and his voice because it felt fake to him. So I reminded him every skill feels foreign before it feels authentic. Think about it. You weren't born knowing how to drive a car. He wasn't. It's a skill he had to learn. And your voice and your presence and your confidence is the same. So slowly these techniques became natural and his confidence grew. He ended up delivering a standout presentation that led to more and more opportunities, investor meetings, media interests. But I think the most important for him was that it was a complete mindset shift. He went from dreading the stage to enjoying it. And this is a perfect example of how new communication skills don't make you someone else, but they expand who you really are. And this is why your personal brand voice is pillar one. It's the first asset in growing your personal brand. And if we skip this and we jump straight into crafting your message, you're going to feel like you're building on sand. And when your voice and presence are aligned and grounded, the message comes easily. Small shifts in how you speak can dramatically change how your expertise is perceived. Have you ever noticed how people respond differently to you based on how you enter a room or you begin a conversation? I want you to think about it. Have you ever felt the frustration of knowing your ideas are valuable, but sensing they're not really landing with the impact that they deserve? And could some small adjustments to how you deliver your message dramatically change how your expertise is received? Well, the answer is yes, absolutely yes. And the good news is this is a learnable skill. You don't have to be naturally charismatic. You don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to have been born with a gift. You just need to align your voice with your expertise and then work on those signals that make you influential. And when you do that, you stop trying to sound like an authority. You simply become one. Now, once you have captured the attention with your voice and with your presence, the next question becomes, well, what do you say? While our voice and our presence convey the message, our words are, of course, extremely important. So it's critical to craft a core message that matches your experience, your expertise, and is influential enough to move your ideal clients to take an action. Here's what I see all the time. Experts deliver presentations that are packed with data. The audience nods politely, but nothing changes. There's no shift, no decision, no action from their listeners. What's missing? People don't want data. People want transformation. So that brings us to pillar number 2, your $1 million message. One powerful talk, training, or presentation that makes your positioning unmistakable, that makes your transformation obvious, and makes your next step inevitable. It introduces who you are, what you do, why it matters, and how you create results. And it does it in a way that feels very natural and authentic. This $1 million message could be delivered on stage, on a Zoom, in a video, live, or evergreen. So my question to you is, do you have one talk that you could confidently deliver tomorrow if you were invited onto a stage? If you don't have one flagship message, you stay hard to remember, hard to refer, and hard to book. Every influential voice you know has a key message that they're known for. Now, as an example, Simon Sinek's is Start with Why. Brené Brown's is Vulnerability is Strength. Both had their visibility explode after one TED Talk. Now, I want you to think of what your key message would be, and I want you to write it down or share it in the chat if you want some accountability. Mine is, when your voice and your message match your expertise, you become the visible, trusted, and in-demand authority. Your $1 million message is the clearest expression of your promise, the clearest articulation of the problem that you own, and the clearest path from where your client is to where they want to be. And it does 2 jobs. It builds your brand as the obvious authority. It grows your revenue through clarity and connection and not hype. And it's built around 4 parts: the hook and the context, so why this matters now; the authority narrative, why you, why this; the valuable shift, that's 2 to 4 big shifts in their thinking; and then the aligned invitation. This is a clear, confident call to action. And when these 4 are in place, people finish your talk thinking, I understand this person. I know exactly how it works. I know if it's for me, and I know what I need to do next. Now, here is something very important. You could deliver this message to 1 person or 1,000 people, and your time is the same, but your leverage is completely different. If you already have a presentation that you deliver, but it isn't bringing in clients, here's why. You're giving information dumps instead of a transformation. You're using formulas that maybe don't match your personality. You're teaching so much that people think they can do it themselves. And you have no clear call to action. Or your voice and your delivery aren't landing. This is not a $1 million message. Attention spans are short. People won't waste their time if they don't see and feel the value. If you run webinars and you have high drop-off rates, your structure, your transformation, your voice, or your message isn't connecting. And that's exactly what we fix in our Influential Voice Accelerator program. One of my clients, Effa, is a holistic health coach. Before we worked together, she didn't have a clear way to bring clients into her program. She wasn't confident in her ability to speak on camera, and she was just posting content randomly to grow her reach and hopefully get clients. She wasn't standing out in her niche, and she had no strategy. We worked on her origin story, her why, and her core message. We built her $1 million message around one clear transformation. And we pulled everything back to who she really wanted to serve, the one problem she wanted to own, the one transformation she wanted to be known for. And we created a slide deck to support that. And then we practiced her delivery on live sessions. Her message became, I help ambitious, high-achieving women rebuild their energy, their confidence, and relationship with food so they can feel at home in their bodies again without dieting, perfectionism, or burnout. Now she connects with her ideal clients. They relate to her, they feel understood, and they can see the solution to their problem, making it easy for them to make a decision to take an action. She now has one core asset that she can use as a live training, an evergreen, on stage or on camera. $1 million message becomes your revenue engine. This is not a nice to have. This is a commercial asset. When you have one compelling, well-delivered message, you can turn that into a high-converting webinar. You can say yes to speaking opportunities with confidence. You can get paid to speak. You can anchor podcast interviews around it. And you can build your content ecosystem around it. And then when someone Googles your name or asks AI about you, your message can speak for itself. Your $1 million message is your brand's most powerful intellectual property, but a message only becomes a $1 million message when you have a system built around it. You say the right things in the right way, and then when the right people hear it, you need to be able to capture their emails and nurture them. You can't scale a business if you are manually reaching out to prospects, manually sending emails, and manually chasing the leads. An influential voice needs systematic authority. You need a way for your message to work for you while you're sleeping, while you're with family, while you're working with your existing current clients. And this leads us to the final piece of the puzzle, and that's pillar number 3, which I call the scalable revenue system. This is where we move from visibility to now leveraging. We want to turn your $1 million message into a 24/7 client acquisition machine. This is how we stop relying on random bursts of visibility, and we build a simple, repeatable system that turns your message into intent and revenue. Now, here are the 2 traps that I see experts falling into. Trap number 1 is manual mode. All your clients come from hustle, hope, or referrals, and you don't have a real system. And then trap number 2 is the tech rabbit hole. You have overcomplicated funnels. You have too many tools, too many softwares. You have high costs, and you don't have clarity. We're building the 3rd way. And this way is simple. It's strategic. It's sustainable. Let me show you what this system can look like when it all comes together. People see an ad or a post of yours inviting them to watch your training. And if they're interested, they land on your opt-in page on the left there, and they share their email address. Now, instantly, you're building a list of warm, interested, ideal clients. They get email reminders with the link to watch your training. And then during that training, they're invited, in this instance, to book a call. Those who you end up speaking with are high-intent prospects. They've spent a significant amount of time learning from you and getting to know you during your training, during your $1 million message. And this reduces the friction to close them into your high-level program. After they register, they enter a short email nurture sequence, which is written in your voice, but it's automated and is designed to deepen the relationship, make them feel a part of your community, and of course, lead them to an action. When they book a call, they get reminders, which are automated, and when they're ready to buy, well, the process is seamless. And everything lives inside one simple platform. You don't have to be duct taping multiple software tools together. And this is how your voice, your message, and your system all work together. The scalable revenue system lets you focus on being the key person of influence in your business. The revenue system is set up to handle the rest, allowing you to focus on your key message and offering value to your audience. It works 24/7 to bring in and nurture leads, and it's surprisingly simple to set up. This is my partner, Ingo. You don't need to be technical. You don't need to be worried that you're going to be intimidated by software. Not only is it easy to set up, but Ingo will be your support. Inside the Influential Voice Accelerator, he helps our clients to choose the simplest tech setup for your stage of business, to create a clean path that sends people from your content to your $1 million message and then through an application and onto the call with you. And he'll help you to set up automations, reminders, and follow-ups that offer true value to your audience. He'll teach you how to run these systems easily and without overwhelm, giving you back more freedom in your business and amplifying your voice. Marilyn here is an experienced life coach, but she had no system to build her brand, her authority, generate leads for a business, and nurture those leads to become a client. Her reality looked like this: random lives on Eventbrite to people who were curious but didn't really have a burning problem that they needed to fix, hence not an ideal client. She had no proven structure to her messaging, and she had a weak call to action, and then no system to collect their email and to nurture them. A lot of we should or we could work together conversations that really went nowhere. Now, together, we built her personal brand voice. We supported her to create and record a signature asset, a training that offers value with a strong call to action that would book a call and that could run 24/7, building her authority and growing her email list with her ideal clients. We set up simple registration to reminder to follow-up workflows. We created an application form that filtered out people who aren't ready for her level of work. And we set up her calendar and her booking system. She is now only speaking with people who are genuinely interested in her coaching. She wakes up to new leads and calls every day. She has fewer but significantly more qualified calls with prospects. And then people arrive on the call and they say, "Oh, Marilyn, I watched your training. I feel like I already know you." 40% of calls become clients. Her business now has a predictable rhythm, not just these random spikes. And this is what happens when your voice and your message and your system all intertwine and work together. So if we zoom out, here is the entire influential voice method. Pillar 1, your personal brand voice, aligning your identity and your presence to signal unmistakable authority. Pillar 2, your $1 million message, crafting that flagship asset that positions you and drives high-value demand. And then Pillar 3, your scalable revenue system, building the automated engine that attracts, nurtures, and converts 24/7. When these 3 pillars lock together, your business shifts immediately. You start being the best-kept secret, and you start being the influential voice of your market. You can have hundreds, thousands of ideal clients immersed in your message every single day. And when they spend 45 minutes or more with you on your training, they are more invested in you and more interested to work with you. And you move away from this hustle and hope method of referrals and instead into a model of predictable authority. You get a system that predictably brings in high quality leads, nurtures them in your voice, and converts them into clients. And most importantly, you get back your time because you're no longer the bottleneck in your own growth. You are the leader of a scalable asset. Now, the question isn't just, how do we build this? The question is, how can we build this together with you and have it live in the next 90 days? You have just seen how influential leaders think, how they speak, and how they scale differently. But obviously, understanding the 3 pillars isn't the same as building them. And right now, you have 2 paths. The first path is you could try to build this on your own. You could do it through trial and error, by piecing together your message, by testing, by second-guessing your delivery. And eventually, you'll get there, but it will take longer, it will cost more, and you won't have the support to make sure it's all working. And you won't have our done-for-you services and our objective feedback. Or the second path is to build it properly, with structure, with guidance, with accountability, with a team holding your hand, a team who has done this over and over again with a proven track record of success. So if you have been thinking, this sounds exactly what I need. I'm done hiding. I want predictable authority. I want my message and my system to work together. Let me show you how we can do that. And it's inside our Influential Voice Accelerator program. This is a 90-day high-touch implementation program. Not just theory, not motivation, but implementation. This program is designed for established experts, for coaches, for founders who are ready to step fully into the role of being the influential voice, are ready to build their million-dollar message and turn that message into millions with a scalable revenue system. This is not a do-it-yourself course. It is hands-on. And because this is a high-touch implementation program, we're very selective about who we bring in, and we keep the intake very small so every person gets personalized one-on-one coaching and mentorship. So the next step is really simple. There is a button on the screen that will take you over to a document. And that document explains the entire program in full, what you can expect, how we're going to get your results, and what it costs. Full transparency. So if this interests you, just click that button and go read it. Read it through very carefully and thoroughly. Everything is clearly outlined. Then, if you are genuinely interested, at the bottom of that document, there is a link to complete an application. Make sure you take time when you complete this. Give thoughtful, detailed answers. And then the final step is to pay a fully refundable deposit. We're going to review your application and we'll let you know if we think it's a good fit to work together and if we believe that we can get you to your goals. Now, if it's not a good fit, we will simply refund your deposit. No strings attached. If it is a good fit, though, your deposit will go towards your investment in the program. And we do this because we want people inside the accelerator who are serious about implementation and getting results. And because we want to see you succeed. So in essence, if it feels right, don't let this opportunity pass you by. You've really got nothing to lose, but you have a whole lot to gain. So if you are ready to become the influential voice in your industry and turn your voice into predictable, consistent revenue, click that button below, review the details, complete your application, and secure your place in the next intake. If this is your moment, don't let it slip through your fingers. Save the link in your browser before I close down this webinar, which will be in just a moment. The only thing at risk is staying where you are. So let's stop hiding your expertise and start building your legacy. I want to say a huge thank you for being here. Thank you for investing in yourself. And I can't wait to read your application and, if it's a fit, support you on this journey. Okay? Thank you again, and I'll see you soon. Hey, Lisa here. Thank you for landing on this page. You're about to fill in a little application about potentially working together to grow